we started out the conversation talking about creating a culture of disciple making. Okay, so that's what. So we started out, and the last board was all about disciple making and having a definition of that. What would be the expectations? Why disciple making was so critical and important to the early church, and we've made some huge strides moving in as far as disciple making at New Hope, and kind of laying out a platform of what that looks like. And so for us on the staff level, that we're discipling people who are going to be discipler makers, right? So we're disciple making, and then those who and those are our leaders in the church, because then they're going to be discipling people individually, and then the people who come through our doors on the weekend, they're the ones being discipled. And our whole goal is that for those who are gathering, that they would be willing at least to bring the one, right? To go after the one. And so here's a question. So we do all this. You have churches all around the world doing disciple. Some of them call discipleship. We like disciple making better than discipleship. They're doing. They got classes. They got Sunday school. They got Wednesday nights discipleship classes. They'll have groups, small groups or whatever, this, that, and the other. They're all going, but we don't see any movement. Have you ever noticed that? We just see people keep on getting more Bible. We actually make kind of for a lack of a better term, we over-engorge our people with all kinds of information, but it doesn't go anywhere. And in other words, there's only so many spots of senior leadership in any one church. There's no room. The reason why we see people jumping from one church to another church is because they come here, they go to a bar, they go get trained, they go, "Ooh, this is great," and then it's just a book on a shelf. And they have shelves and shelves of all the conferences they go to, all the work all the Bible studies they've done, all the such and such, and there's really my whole point is there's no outlet.
Right.
And so on Sunday mornings when I say to people, and I try to put it in a very practical way, I say New Hope is a sending church, okay? And it's not, if all you do is disciple making, you are not a sending church. It's a big difference. You can be a growing church, but you're not a sending church. And so the next piece that goes, if we're going to have a movement, okay, movement that reduces the lostness of our city, okay? So it's not just equipping and training and discipling people to sit around and sit soaking sour, okay?
Yes.
It's about seeing kingdom movement.
Amen.
It's about reducing the lostness of our city. Okay, it's about strong missionary DNA. Okay, there's your discipleship aspect of it, and leadership is the fruit of that.
Amen. And
the idea is that you got fuel, you got what the Spirit of God is doing in believers. That's why we want to equip and train, and why in 1 Corinthians 14, starting with verse 26, it says, "What then shall we say, brothers and sisters? When you come together, each of you has a hymn, a word of instruction, a revelation, a tongue, or an interpretation. Everything must be done so that the church may be built up." Okay? So the idea is that we need to begin to start developing platforms or creating a culture where we have platforms, because the church exists to equip the saints to serve. Mm-hmm. Now we gotta kind of frame that a little bit.
Yeah.
And so if we're looking for movement, we gotta ask ourselves, what are the greatest barriers to gospel movement in our cities through the American church? And these are some examples, okay? Bad doctrine, teaching, bad systems, the methodology. There's no place for people to use their gifts. I mean, you have to unless you got a Bible bachelor's degree, and then you get an MDiv, and you jump through these 15 hoops and such, and then maybe at the end, if you don't fall off and this, that, and the other thing, you might, we might say, go ahead, start a smaller group. Ton of lack of motivation, lack of unity and vision within the body of Christ. We have culture and race wars going on in the church. A lot of division that hits. There's probably one of my big ones. There's a lack of urgency in the American church. Very comfortable. Hey, we just gave money to something. I mean, hey, we have 4 or 5 baptisms here. Not a bad thing. Okay, I'm not saying any of these things are bad. But what ends up happening is it robs ourselves of a lack of urgency that we have to get. There are people lost and going to die. Some of it's just pure laziness. And I would say a lack of brokenness over our city. In other words, that we go from our air-conditioned houses into our air-conditioned car, go into our jobs, and then once a week we'll go to our nice little favorite church with the nice carpet, the nice lights, this, that, and the other thing, and that's our existence. We have no connections in the communities, no real broken. We don't have a Nehemiah's heart, who was broken when he heard of the condition of what was going on in Jerusalem. He was broken, and that brokenness stirred him to a sense of urgency, and somebody has to do something. And when God's people are broken over addiction and violence in the home and drugs and shootings and such, it starts changing the whole paradigm. The problem is that if we don't have strong missionary DNA, when this happens, it's all shut down. There's no money for that. There's no funding for that. We have no platforms to support what God is doing in the brokenness and stirring in people's hearts. So again, you can have disciples. You train them, equipping them. They're having all this stuff. You know what I mean? We'll encourage people with all kinds of assessments, but then you hit the wall, boom, and nowhere to go. I like using. So you got the temple model, right? You got one person sharing the Bible, and it's in a box. People come. And not an evil thing. I'm not saying it's an evil thing. And then what you have is they might have somebody come and here's a Bible study in a box, and it's about us. It's about us. Again, nothing wrong or evil. I'm not saying anything wrong or evil about that in of itself. We're gonna get together and do a Bible study and kind of grow, and we'll go on shoot pool together, go to the beach together, whatever, do some stuff, and that's the extent of American Christianity. The problem is,
what does that say above there? That second box, the curriculum. What does that say?
Curriculum, materials, just Bible.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what is that box?
This is one person who goes here and starts a small group.
Got it. Okay.
But it's closed. It's it's just for
Huddle.
themselves.
It's
It's yeah. And so there's no strong missionary DNA in there. Okay, it's for self. Isolated. And again, there's nothing isolated. If we don't disciple leaders, leaders won't disciple. And this is the key. And when I'm talking about disciple, we're talking about so we want to go from this closed-in square box to more having, we have a leader here, and they're discipling people, okay? And of course there's Bible in here. Of course there's all kinds of,
cool.
Yeah. all the, but it's missional in its context, okay? That's why we go over in the staff, who are your 3? 1, 2, 3. Because ultimately, you want your
3 to be running.
Boom. Okay, one goes, and they go, and then they get their 3. The other one goes over here. Now you're looking at multiplication. If you here, this is addition. can I spell?
APD.
Yeah, that's close enough. Okay? This is multiplication. Okay? So, between here and here, okay, you could have a platform. I would say the majority does not have a platform to do multiplication. What they have is what I call here a pipeline. They got a pipeline. The pipeline, your traditional church planting pipeline or multiplication pipeline, you get somebody, interns, hopefully, you start training them. Maybe they're local, live in the area. Maybe you find housing for them to come in. Maybe like Ming, we bring them in. Locally, we find them a place, this, that, and the other thing. You do assessing and training, this, that, and the other thing. They go through all that, and then eventually, you send them out, and they plant, and they multiply. And your pool, from where you're trying to pull, is either from the business world, schools, parachurch organizations, nonprofits, and hopefully that they feel the call of God. They're going to come in and do this thing, and then hopefully it's kind of, even though I was going to make it more of a funnel because it gets wide here and then it gets real short over here, right? And right now the average pipeline in most denominations, 12 candidates a year, 9 plants a year, and then 7 exist after a year. Okay? It's your normal traditional pipeline. And again,
while the average church has 12 people like a Mang coming in a year, 1 a month.
So no, denomination, not a church. Well, that'd be great if you had 12 candidates a year at church.
Wow, I was gonna say that's a pretty impressive. How do you get there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, there is a way how you get there. So the idea is going in from these closed sets, okay, to more of an open set, where if this is the community, right? And the goal isn't to get this to come over here. Okay?
Which is what everyone thinks.
The goal is to get those that are here doing discipleship in the community right where they are.
Yep.
Right there, right there at the hardware store,
Right.
giving hugs, inviting people over, that kind of deal. And I would say that you'll have some, like there's a fence. They're kind of in, but they're not committed. They're a great resource to work with. Okay, and you got others that they're not afraid to be in, but they're not kind of in. But they actually, sometimes because they're not in, they tend to be influencers, and at times can have a great impact. And so it's the unchurched lost person who loves handing out bread. Mm-hmm. Okay, and they invite 5 or 10 their 10 friends.
Mouthpiece. Yeah.
Okay, but they're not in.
Yeah.
They're not in, and so I usually call them gospel partners.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I call them.
That's a great name for them. I like that.
You need to be looking for your gospel partners where you live, work, and play. They're not church. They're not following Jesus, and but they might love what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They might even have interest. They might even open up their home for a Bible study because they like the social aspect of having people in the house. And so my whole point with this is don't discredit that. These guys are the Charles Spurgeons of the world. All right.
Can you give a definition of platform then?
Okay, so yeah, I got it right here.
Okay, got it.
So so when you think of pipeline, okay, systems, organization, structure, pipeline, very organizational. This has been very effective. It's effective, okay? It's effective. It's effective in producing and multiplying. It is effective. Where multiplication isn't what we're looking for. We're looking for movement. We're looking for exponential movement. We're looking for this to happen, okay? All on its own. The problem is that this doesn't fit in this. We don't have the systems. There is no way that all this innovation, creativity going on over here, and then we try to fit it in a box, and it just does not work. So,
it's creating a culture.
huh?
You gotta create the culture.
You got to create culture.
Yeah.
And so it's probably and culture. You got to go. Culture. There's a whole thing on culture, but you got to get into right terminology. You got to be all speaking right language, same language. You all got to have a strong. Okay, what are we doing? We all got to be on the same mission. We want every man, woman, and child to have multiple opportunities to hear, see, and respond to the gospel of Jesus Christ. That's the mission. The mission isn't for me to have my little thing over here and just keep on doing that. That's not the mission. And so you might do that in a small group. You might do that, in your community. We can get into that. There's places for that. But the problem is that this model, the addition model, doesn't have the systems for it. The multiplication model has the pipeline, and that produces, right now where New Hope is at, we have the pipeline. And we're developing that pipeline, this, that, and the other thing. Ideally, one day we would get to the movement aspect of it. We're starting to see some signs of it if we see Archie planting in Arcadia. That's where movement, really, you're hitting movement is when you're in the fourth generation. So, and in the fourth generation, they'll never know who the innovative pastor was, or the catalytic pastor was, because they're 4 generations past.
Right.
But it's a movement, exponential movement. So, platform. Now this is a whole different paradigm shift. Okay. Pipeline. They fit into our systems. They fit into our strategy. We got them in a particular subset, and it multiplies. You get churches out of that. The problem is that we're not even reaching the birth rate with multiplication.
No.
We need to see movement. Movement for me would be another word for revival. Where, back to the Great Awakenings, this, that, and the other thing. People are just being bold and courageous and going out there, and they're starting small groups on their own, and this, that, and the other thing, blah, 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 and it's just exploding, and the church is going, whoa, wait a minute, you didn't follow our 4 systems, and they don't know what to do with it. And so my thing is, I said, well, why don't we prepare ourselves? My goal is that instead of us having everybody come here and then we'll send one out here to do a small group or whatever, ministry and this, that, and the other thing. Again, not a bad thing. I don't think it's the full thing. And basically you got to fit this mold. Mm-hmm. Okay, so platform. Platform is not really giving them, well, you have to follow these 15 instructions. Platform, you got to think of it from a computer mindset. You got platforms, and when you need a service, you attach to the platform, to be able to accomplish what you need to do, and then you build your own pipeline or whatever that is to look like, and you multiply. So, and instead of you getting one into into this process in a funnel, you're saturating all the areas, and these are your pools: your public sector, business, schools, your parachurch, your nonprofits, and instead of them coming to us, this is the difference with the platform. So instead of everybody going here, we're saying no. We're going to go to you, and we're going to give you resources, equipping, coaching, so that you can do what God's put in your heart to do.
You want to define parachurch for those that may not know what that is?
Parachurch is an organization that does a specific area of ministry, like missions, overseas missions, like a missions group, like you got college groups. What do you call those?
When we used to do Campus Crusade.
Campus Crusade for Christ, this, that, and the other thing.
YWAM?
Huh? YWAM, yeah, these are all parachurch organizations. They're doing mission, a piece of the mission of the church that the church isn't doing.
Can I ask? So,
Yeah.
I'm assuming that the platform networks happen based on the gifts and talents and treasures of the people. So they follow their heart and the gifts that they've
Not the
been given?
platform. Not the
Well,
platform.
what is the platform then?
The
What
platform?
Give me an example.
The platform should be the church.
So just put that.
So-
say this happens and put
So-
that in an example. So
So-
tell me, Billy Bob. What's his platform? Billy Bob.
So Tony
There you go.
Tony has a heart to preach and has a heart for a community.
Okay, well, let me just back up. So what if it's not a pastor's call? I'm just saying that's what I said. Your gifts and your talents and your treasures.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was
Yeah.
saying. So the platform is the gifts, the talents, and treasures.
The
Are
platform
used for that.
the platform is the systems that someone like Tony or someone like Joe and Jennifer that would need to be able to run a Celebrate Recovery.
So isn't that based on their gifts, their talent, their desire for CR? That's the gift and the talent God gave them for that. Your desire is not for CR, but your gifts and talents are children.
Yeah.
So that's what I was saying. So you look for in people what God has placed in them as their gifts, talents, and treasures.
I don't look for anybody on the
Well,
platform.
I don't mean literally you look or
yeah.
I look. All I'm saying is I'm trying to figure out how they go from A to B. Do they follow their gifts?
Watch this diagram here.
Oh, I'm always okay.
Always jumping ahead.
Okay, my brain goes there.
No. So
So that's what I'm trying to
but the thing is, you got to understand that as far as platform isn't telling anybody, saying that this, here are the 5 areas of ministry you got to participate in.
No, I'm saying they follow their heart.
No. I'm just describing the platform. So I'm describing the platform as saying the platform is a place for people to plug into, and they can get resources. They can get the equipping, the training, the such and such, whatever God's dream is there for their lives. Okay? So we provide funding, we provide training and equipping, but whatever God has put in their heart to do. The struggle is, okay, so, our food pantry was started because a couple in the church had a heart for the food pantry, probably about 12 years ago, and said, listen, we really feel have a heart and to do food pantry. Well, back in the day, we'd go, well, we got to talk to our deacons, we got to go, no, whatever, have a meeting, this, that, and the other thing, we got to see if we're going to have any space for you, blah, blah, blah. And then we take them through a rigamaboo of stuff for them to go out and do what God's called them to do, and we know that helping and feeding people is a biblical thing. While on the other hand, if it was more like today, they'd be like, hey, listen, God's go, okay, great. What can we do to help you to do what God's called you in your heart to do?
So that's following their gifts, their talent, their treasures. They have a heart for bread.
Yeah.
So that's what I meant. So they're
But that's
following
not the
their-
platform. That's this guy.
Okay,
following
so
their heart,
that's that
treasure,
guy.
whatever.
There's Tony. He's out there.
There's
Okay.
Tony.
Okay.
Tony's gifts, heart's treasure,
Okay.
is connecting to the platform called New Hope. Okay? or whatever other platform we can create.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just using it as an example.
Mm-hmm.
And he's able to get funding and resources. He's able to tap into the favor God's given us, our reputation in the community, this, that, and the other thing, whatever, to be able to use that, to leverage that as God's gifted him, to then go out into Arcadia. Let's just put Arcadia there, right? I'm just using, to go into Arcadia and leverage that.
And spread the news.
Yeah, and he's gonna start ministries out there, which is good. We're not gonna have anything to do with that at New Hope Biscayne, nor do we want to. But if we want to do the box thing, then he has to submit a report, tell me what it's going to do, pass it through all the this, that, and the other thing, see if it fits within our preview. If we want to do that, don't want to do that, whatever. Who wants?
I've seen that so often. I've been to so many meetings that's just like that.
Yeah. So it's we're moving in the right direction. But when we move away from this, is what's taken us probably about 7-8 years to get here. To start, we start thinking we're okay with that. You know what I mean? Before we were getting tons of pushback, which was natural. And I'm not saying I think there's a place for this and a place for this, but as long as your heart is here and you're looking for movement.
So basically, the platform is a place for people with their talents and treasures to come to for, like you said, the equipping to be able to go out and do those things.
Yeah.
That's
so it's church.
Yeah, they okay. Now we go to church, right? So it's immediately where it goes, right? So the thing is what the mission for us from 1 Corinthians 14, okay, is that we exist to equip the saints to serve, okay? They're not here to serve for us to build our own little castle. Okay?
Multiply disciple makers.
Okay, exactly. And so I don't know what gifts are going to come in. Okay, so here's the tricky part. Okay, somebody who's from the school system has a heart, this, that, and the other thing, whatever the case may be, not directly part of the box set of us being New Hope Community Church. The platform still supports that. That is not where we're at all at this point. We do this on a limited form if you're part of this subset. Tony's part of the subset, and that's why he's got the benefit of this. Okay, so Joe Blow down the street feels a call of God to come. He comes to New Hope, and he wants to tap into resources like Tony. We go. That literally hinders movement. It's a big jump.
So if I have somebody that's interested, let's say, in sex trafficking and has a blah 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 vision, we're going to support and send them out and what do we have to offer? I mean, offer them as far as
that's a great question.
That's what I want to know. I'm not familiar.
Well, the thing is that we're not there yet. I'm telling you that you go from disciple making to building your platforms, then that's going to eventually move out to you seeing movement, because that's a great one. So someone has a passion, sex trafficking, this, that, and the other thing, whatever the case may be. Then we got to be able to say, okay, what resources do we have to help them? Well, we got plenty of resources at New Hope to do that. We got space, we got buildings, we got facilities, we have a budget. Maybe we haven't put any money in that budget. Well, maybe we need to start thinking about putting money in that particular budget.
Just bring it to the table.
Yeah. And so, but minimally, we should be able to say, listen, do we believe that to be God? Sure. Do they need a community to feel the support and the encouragement to go out there? We don't want them to go out there on their own. We want them to be connected to and network to say, listen, you're not on your own. You got people that are praying for you, this, that, and the other thing, whatever the case may be. You have a home to come back to, whatever. And so I'll go back to here. Okay, so this person here, who's in this apostolic mode, okay, gets they take the initiative. Okay, sex trafficking, whatever, any other particular thing that has a heart for them to do. The platform then says, well, hey, that sounds like a great idea. How do we help you do that? What do you need? And so go out and try that in the name of Jesus.
Yeah.
And then they go out and they try to recruit or whatever. If they come and they say, well, I have this idea and you do it, that is not apostolic.
No, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Right.
No.
Most
You need to be on a
people
team.
do that.
Yeah. And so, are they willing to experiment? Are they willing to build a team and
Invest
codify?
time and energy and money in it.
Well, of course.
All their life.
And then ultimately, you're going to see multiplication flow out of that. Okay. So we get into the aspect of now we get into the dark matter. Okay. No joke. We get into the dark matter of what is church. Because if you're going to build this,
Your
You gotta have the
empire.
right definition.
you got to have the right definition for
Vision.
church.
Yeah.
Okay. Now here's the struggle. New Hope being part of the Christian Missionary Alliance, we do have a box set. Just the reality of life that we live in. It allows us to do this, allows us to do this, and there is a place, I believe, for this to happen. And to be perfectly honest, I have not figured that out yet. But I'm on a journey. I'm bringing you along. You have, in Christian tradition, probably for the last 1,500 years, you have what they call modalic spaces and sodalic spaces. I'll give you the example. So your modalic spaces, and this pretty much comes out of a lot of Catholicism, which they had a really good, real good foundation, this puppy. Your modalic space would be your community, your church, what they would consider church, where you would go and you get a sense of belonging and strengthening and affirming and all the stuff that we kind of go. And then your sodalic spaces, what they did was they made up all these orders. Okay, so the Franciscan order, the Augustine orders, and each of them had a specialty. Okay, they took great risk and they were practicing. So St. Francis was out there trying to feed the poor, whatever, because the modalic spaces weren't doing that, because they were basically just taking care of their own, which is what modalic spaces do. And then you have these sodalic spaces, which they allowed all these orders. Nuns, it's a sodalic space. Okay, beautiful picture. The thing is that you need, the way this person here needs both. So they're going kind of and there's an ebb and flow.
Yeah.
To ultimately to go out to do this
Oh, that's good.
and multiply. The season that they got to be in the modalic space, because sense of support and affirmation and credentialing, the whole deal, to go out into the world,
makes sense.
to be able to
And
reach
also
their
have to-
whatever pool
They
they are.
also have to be willing to take the risk to actually venture out to that
Correct.
unknown area and seek those different
Correct.
And you encourage me to go back out.
Right. And you have this ebb and flow going back and forth. And so if you took at the bare core, and again, we can get into differences of opinion depending on what theology you are. So I'm not pushing that. I'm just saying that if you're going to have movement, strong DNA, leadership, you have vision, that's all kind of moving. We then got to say, well, is the church building, stained glass, pews? Is it a when you have all this blah 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 blah, whatever that is for you, whatever denomination, Christian tradition you come from, and you make that your box set.
Yeah.
Well, this box set you can't take with you. It's stationary. It doesn't move.
Right. So you have to go out and seek.
So
others
if whoever, let's call it Jane, wants to do sex trafficking, and she has the right, he or she, whatever, has the right missionary DNA, and attach to the platform and saying, listen, I got a heart, I'm going to reach out. And it could be an ethnic group. It could be whatever. It could be anything. And we're saying, okay, well, we know we want an expression of the church. So what are the core essentials that would identify a group of believers? Does a group of believers have to be 30 people? 50 people? What defines that? And so there's certain aspects. One, Spirit of God, right? Worship, clear, Jesus-centered, right? Jesus. Anything worshiping other than Jesus, not the church. Mission, Jesus' mission. Okay. Ultimately, then you have also community. Jesus' body. So, and then the center is what you have is when all three meet, is what we're saying is the church, the body of Christ, in its center. Worship, and again, how do you define worship? 3 songs, 2 songs, no songs. Do you have to have songs to worship God?
No.
I'm just saying. It gets in. We're just big pieces here. We're not getting into the whatever. Mission. Okay. Every man, woman, and child, equipping people, saints to serve. If all you have, so you can have worship, you can have wonderful community, but you don't have mission, not the church. Are we reaching out to as a gospel movement to reduce lostness in our city and bring that down? And we're reducing lostness in sex trafficking. Got that. We got times we're worshiping together. We're community, growing, discipling, equipping one another. How do we get to do that mission? I think that the only way we're going to see exponential growth and movement is that when we start looking at what we have right now and more platforms than a closed subset.
It's interesting because I'll just share this with you guys that Mark and I were talking a week ago, and he was saying, he's got a business mantle. That's his. He's got an influence in the business community all over, and he's always done that, and he's always evangelized before men. And he says, I don't fit in the ministry. I'm not a pastor, a teacher, exactly.
Okay,
that's his platform, is business, and he's never had cultivated that because
there's nothing in the closed subset to provide him the resources to do that.
But he always gets used mightily in that realm.
So, when you think of probably one of the great revivals that happened in America was because businessmen decided to have a prayer meeting in the afternoon in New York City. And revival exploded all over the place. Subset. Wasn't from the church. Didn't fit their little program.
Well, and the point is that there's many in the church that aren't called to children's ministry, because that's what we think in the world is that
children, youth,
pastor,
programs.
Is it audio, video? And at DYP,
worship team.
We could stress that even more because we say whatever you are and whatever your heart is. But I mean, if they don't fit that box, they feel like, okay, well then I just go home and have my lunch and come to Sunday service.
This is the reason why I've been pushing for the Church Leadership Academy and the Bible School equipping.
Yeah.
That's going to get us to this.
I agree, 100%. And that class launch covers discovering your gifts, your talents, and treasure, and what that passion is that God's given you, developing it, discipling, and deploying, the 4 Ds.
And the reason why is because New Hope is in our infrastructure and the leadership and in our culture is not. We've moved away from the closed-in subset. So when a guy like Joe says, you know, hey, I mean, I'd like to pastor a church or whatever the case may be, this, that, and the other thing, whatever the case, that's him. And we say, okay, I got a real heart for broken people. I got whatever that looks like, whatever community that looks like, that kind of stuff. And he taps into the platform, and he does this. Initiates, experiments. Oh, that didn't work. All right, well, let's go back to figuring out what does work. You don't learn unless you fail. But we don't, in this box set, failure, you're out.
Yeah.
Tough. So,
Bible app was actually created out of a website that they started,
yeah.
and it completely flopped, the idea, but out of that came the Bible app, YouVersion Bible app, which now has 1 billion downloads.
So, the thing is that when we got to think of, I'm just trying to give you a big picture, discipleship and equipping and training and teaching, okay, in a close subset, okay, will not produce kingdom advancement. It's not made that way.
Yeah.
We were not created to be in a sterile environment. We have to learn and do. And so you need the training, equipping, teaching, and all the other stuff. But it's having the right mission. We're reducing lostness everywhere we go. The world is lost and broken. Jesus came to redeem. He came to seek and save what was lost. And so, and I don't know what that looks like, nor and the reason why we're not seeing this type of catalytic going on is because we have this closed set. We're telling these people, no, you got to come to us. And when you jump through our hoops and you fit through and you dress like us, talk like us, carry the right Bible, have the King James, this, and the other thing, we'll let you in. And then all these people have nobody to tell them about Jesus. And this thing might even grow, because if I keep on pulling a couple of people out, but it's never enough.
Right.
We're dribs and drabbing. And even in multiplication, if all New Hope does is plant churches, as far as the Biscayne campus, that's all we do, we still have not, we will not get to this. If the gospel were unhindered in our community, what 3 things would change? Crime would drop. So many people getting saved. They're giving back what they stole. Families, okay? All of a sudden now, people are fighting for their marriages. They refuse to give up. They're working through their issues. I mean, imagine what that would look like with children and whatever, brokenness. Poverty would be reduced. Because we'd be saying, I can't live in $1 million house when I got so many homeless right across the street. Right. I can't. Gospel of Jesus, I know all this stuff I can't take with me. It changes the heart. And when that happens, man, church is so full. It's like we need more churches. We can't. The box set. We got to do this. So that's my my piece. We're going to unpack this a little bit more, but I just kind of give the big overview. Cool?
Pamela has questions.
No.
Oh, all right.
We'll have time for questions. I'll be here next week. We'll have questions next week. All right. Thanks, guys.